Good morning. Welcome to Office Hours, the show where we answer your technical media production questions every single week. We got a great panel for you today. And Mark, let's jump right in.
Good morning. Good morning, Alex. Our first question is from Chris Snowblock from Lahnstuhl, Germany. I occasionally work at events with increased security where our computers and external media are not allowed. Can the panel recommend a presenter countdown timer with video output capability, either HDMI or SDI, etc.? Thanks.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, so the only one I have been using for the last few years is the one that are a part of the ATEM switchers. That one is basically going out on the for the constellation. It's output on output 1. And you can easily just control the amount of minutes, etc., that you need to be adding to that graphic, and you can scale it, and you can resize it and position it wherever you would like it to be presented, and it's automatically just chroma keyed, or actually it's luma keyed, I think, into the picture that you send out on output 1 or aux 1. We use it normally for, so we have keynotes or PowerPoints, the notes display. It's going out on that same output, and we tend to just add the countdown timer on the left side of the note sheets, where it normally is black, so it's just below the active PowerPoint slide, and to the left side of the notes, and that is amazingly well appreciated by the presenters that are able to just watch this presentation notes and the countdown timer on the same display. So that's a good idea. I don't know of any other that doesn't need a software install or machines. You need computers for everything these days.
All right. Thanks for the suggestion. Let's go to the next question.
Our next question is from our own Alexander Knight. I'm incredibly frustrated by camera manufacturers and their confusing product names. It's not just Sony that's problematic, but shopping for Panasonic full-frame S5 II, S5 IIX, or S1 II, and newer. Why have they made this so complicated?
I've been doing a deep dive because I'm building a new studio and researching cameras, and this is just so frustrating. I mean, listen to some of these names. S1M2, S1RM2, S9N, S5M2, and then they have the S5 II, S5 IIX, S1 II, and the S1 II is the newer flagship model. This took a while for me to figure out, like looking at product comparison charts, looking at the manufacturing date, product release dates. It's a combination of that with ChatGPT. It is just a mess. And I'm kind of surprised that anyone can make heads or tails of this without having a dedicated sales rep. So I was just curious what everybody thought about this. Why do these names have to be so complicated? Anyone in the chat, if you wanted to chime in too, but I just find it incredibly frustrating shopping for cameras right now, and I'm having a hard time making a decision. I know what I want. I know what my requirements are, but even between these two models that I'm looking at right now, the S5 IIX, which is the more video-centric full-frame camera that has a built-in cooling fan. That one has all the codec support for ProRes, RAW recording, and all that sort of stuff, which is great. That's a 2-year-old camera, and it's come down quite a bit in price, so I'm very tempted by it. And I was double checking to make sure that it has the current hybrid autofocus systems, because Panasonic has been very problematic in that end with really good autofocus. But this one apparently has the good autofocus system. It can really lock onto your face, and it's competitive with Sony cameras. And then the S1 II, which is the newer one, which is quite a bit more expensive. It's another $1,500 for just the body, has some quote-unquote AI face tracking, but it seems to have all the same codec support and very, very few differences between them. So I'm having a hard time deciding. Go ahead. Let's start with Paul.
Yeah, why can't they just do what Apple does and use the year? Like their operating system on the phone is something 26.
Right, exactly. That would be simpler.
That would be perfect if they would do that. I'm done. Somebody else.
Mark, go ahead.
So, I mean, it's not that different from Canon's nomenclature where the whatever model you have, the one is always the professional model. And then as the number gets higher, it seems, at least in the still cameras, it seems like it gets prosumer and then consumer. So if you get the 5, it's like prosumer, the 1 is pro, and then if they add the 0, like the 60, the 70, and the 80, that's more prosumer. But it is challenging. You got to sit there and spend a lot of time trying to figure out what they're trying to tell you.
And Ronnie?
I figured out if it has 4 digits, it's a really, really bad solution. And the less number of integers it include in the product number. So if it's single digit, like 1 or 2, it's really, really good. And let's not forget, all these camera and all this naming is developed by engineers. It's not supposed to be easy.
Yeah, you're right. It didn't occur to me because you would think a marketing department would say, hold on a second, engineers, S5 to S1 to, wait, stop. We're not doing that because that's way too complicated for the layman to understand. But you're right. It totally sounds like an engineered solution. They're like, let's throw a couple numbers and alpha characters in there. That's all. It's good enough. Good enough. People will figure it out. People are smart. People are buying these cameras. The target market are smart. They'll figure it out. All right. End of rant. Next question.
Our next question is from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. What is a usable lighting setup if you have an LED wall or a large OLED monitor as your backdrop?
All right, Paul, tell us what's going on in your studio, or what do you build?
All right, I'll set the stage. Okay, here's the deal. Okay, you ready, guys? Okay, here we go. I've got a 98-inch LED monitor behind me. It's from Best Buy. I got it there. And it's on a butcher block cart that rolls up and down with a little handle. You turn the handle up this way or that way, and it goes up or down. So what I need is lighting that will not reflect in it. And all the lighting I've tried reflects into the panel, and I'm going to get rid of my overhead light. So don't worry about that. We already went through that. So what can I get that won't mess up my background now?
All right, Ronnie, what do you think?
Yeah, so I have a similar situation here because when I let us look at the background. So when I turn the light here, you can see everything behind me. And when I turn my light back towards myself, you see the shadow is coming in on my side of my face. And these are small LED lights, like 1 foot by 1 foot in size. And in front of that, I have an egg crate, or these small squared fabric patterns that are velcroed to the front. And that egg crate is actually just shadowing the light and pointing it to only go forward. So I can direction the light where I would like it to go. And in this case, I would like it to not hit my background and only hit my foreground. The other thing that it will prevent you from happening in the back is to reflect, because it doesn't even see the light. So it just sees the sides of each of the sides in the egg crate itself. So as long as you have not adjusted the light a little bit too much to the back, you will prevent it from reflecting. And of course, everything in front of you will probably be reflected in the display as well. So the way to trick the display to not reflect the things that you doesn't need it to reflect, or hope that it wouldn't reflect, is to tilt it a little bit backwards, so it kind of reflect everything from the ceiling and down to the camera. And of course, that display has to be filling the entire camera frame, so that you don't see it's actually just flipped a little bit. So that's a few of the tricks that we are using.
Are you saying to tilt it sideways or to tilt it up forward or backward, Ronnie?
Tilt it backwards, so it tilts up against the ceiling and won't be reflecting anything you have in front of you, like displays or other stuff that you have in front of you.
Then I'll have to get a whole new mount because that table doesn't tilt and the monitor doesn't tilt. So I'll have to get a rolling cart, I guess, for that monitor, which is a huge problem for a 98-inch monitor, finding a suitable rolling cart.
Well, you have to weigh these troubles against each other, reflecting light or get a new mount. I think that's the base question.
Exactly. All right, well, keep us posted, Paul. Maybe jump into after hours or come on the show again. Let us know how that goes. Let's go to the next question.
Our next question is from Guy Cochran in Seattle, USA. What kind of cameras and tech will be at the Super Bowl? And he gives a link from Newcastle Studio. And I put it in the notes. Chat.
All right, Paul.
All right, since the Super Bowl LX, I guess, what is LX? Help me out. What's LX? 45? Or something like that. It's
55.
Tomorrow. So they're building a massive setup, and there's 145 cameras from NBC and 37 Sony HDC series, 18 POV cameras, and then cinema-style cameras, dual sky cams, on and on. The guy who could really answer this question is Mickey, because he's at the Olympics dealing with all this stuff. I wish he would, if he's here, maybe he can put something in the chat, because he's the insider.
Yeah, I think Mickey's already commenting in the chat. Let's go to Chris.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest tech rollouts of the year, except for the Olympics. One of the places that really dives into this is Sports Video Group. If you're not familiar with them at all, they're a great resource. They're going to be doing updates on everything from set design to camera rollouts and all that kind of stuff. So if this is really something you want to dive into, this is always a good resource.
All right, awesome, good to know. And Mickey in the chat is saying, where is it here? I just scroll past it. It depends on the set, the frames, and the look the production is going for. All right. Just a reminder, if you'd like to ask questions on this show, you can do that. We've got a great live chat going. And to do that, you got to be part of our community. So we have a Q&A system called Makana. That's where you post those questions. And then all of you can just vote on those questions up or down. Let us know which ones are important to you to answer first. And of course, you can chat with us live on the show, so you're missing half the fun. If you want to learn how to do that, you can go to officehours.global/join. That's officehours.global/join. Just put in your email, and we'll send you that information, all the links that you need. Let's go to the next question.
Our next question is coming in from the QR code, and it's KJ from La Crosse, Wisconsin. Going out to NAB in April and wondering if anyone has some recommendations on an LED virtual set company to look up that would cater more to corporate production and occasional commercial productions, etc. Thank you.
This is out of scope for me. And since nobody's raised their hands on the panel to this question, KJ, we may have to bring this back on another day. But Paul, looks like Paul wants to step in. Go ahead.
I just want to compliment him on living in La Crosse, Wisconsin, because that's where my father, my grandfather, my whole family grew up there. So I will personally research this and send him something in Discord.
Okay, great.
Well, we have some chat coming in that's suggesting Ross Video. JJ says 6T. 60. Never mind. That's the Super Bowl. Yes, it's Super Bowl 60. I misspoke early. But I think Ross Video is the suggestion from the chat.
All right. Next question.
Paul Valhus is back. If I uninstall my ceiling fan in my studio, what would I replace it with in terms of recessed lighting and power?
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so Paul, you got to set us up with a little bit more information. I know where it is because I've seen it in the past, but people might not know where it is. So is this behind you, in front of you? What type of lighting are you trying to achieve?
Okay, I'm gonna excuse me while I step away from the mic for just a minute, and I'll flip this light on, and you can see exactly where it is. So that is the light. It's right in the center of the room, directly in the center of the room. And you saw it where it came from when I turned it on.
Right. So your objective is this: do you want to put a hair light in? Do you want it to light up what's behind you? I don't think so, because you've got a giant monitor behind you. Do you want it to light up your desk?
I want something that will be large and put out a diffused light that won't reflect in the monitor. That
So
will
how
kind
much
of
room?
cast
How
a
much
glow
room is there?
over the room?
How much room is there between your head and that ceiling fan?
I would
Foot,
say
2
4
foot?
feet, about 4 feet.
So you probably, I'm not a lighting expert, but I'm going to
But
say
I'm
you want
standing.
some,
If I was sitting, it'd be more like 6 feet.
but you don't want to bang into it. So you probably
No.
want some way of distributing that light and then covering it with some kind of fabric so that there aren't as many hot spots, kind of like what CJ did with his lights in his studio.
Yeah, I can cut a hole in the sheetrock too and put it up in the
Okay, well,
ceiling
if you're willing
itself.
to do that, then you have a lot of possibilities. But I would look at my key light here. I really like these Amaran F22s. They have two different versions. I've got the bigger one, which is a big 2x. To me, that's fairly big in my smaller space here. But it's a 2x2, and it comes with two different styles of diffusion fabric. And then also you can put an egg crate to really control the directionality of the light. I like those. It's a flexible LED panel, so it's nothing. And then even the softbox itself is only about a couple inches, maybe 3 inches thick. Also, there's the Nanlite Pavo Slims. That's another option as well. So the Pavo Slims are the same type of style of flexible LED light. You can get really very compact, narrow soft boxes to put on top of these. They're DMX controllable. The power supply, the / ballast, is external, so you don't have the big hulking thing sticking out of the back of that thing. So you can relocate that power supply, and they come with a nice long power cord. So that is something you could potentially do. And in fact, I'm dealing with this now in my new studio build, because this new studio is going to be potentially, if this goes through, it's going to be in this basement suite of a house, and the ceiling's only 8 feet, which is not ideal, especially if you want to put a lighting grid up there. So I'm currently looking at these slim lights to put up on the ceiling just to save myself some room. So you may want to have a look at that and see if maybe that might work for you. Go ahead, Mark.
Good suggestion.
Okay, so Mickey in the chat says, using the light fixtures that required for large production needs, why such a strange requirement? Locking yourself into recessed lighting means all the lights, all your lighting is shooting down, dead pad downwards. Now, you said you can recess the lighting. How much distance is there between the structure, between the chipboard, and the structure above that?
We have 16-inch joists. I'm sorry.
Your joists are on
16-inch.
16. We have 2x.
We have 12-inch joists on 16-inch centers. I ought to know this because I built it, so I'm pretty sure that's
so you got 2x
there.
every 16 inches carrying the load of the floor
Right.
above. And then, so you have actually another foot of recessed area. How is the drywall nailed right to the joist?
Yeah, but that's not a problem. I can
So
just
you
cut
can
it
take the
out.
drywall down, but I'm just trying to figure out how much distance you have. So I think one option right now, what you're trying to do, it seems to me, and from Mickey's comments, is you're trying to utilize a specific source of electricity for a light without really letting the need for your lights drive where you put the light. In other words, you're trying to make this position work rather than looking at it from. So what I'm wondering is if you can remove the drywall, or the chipboard is the proper term, sorry. Drywall is a manufacturer. If you try and move that substrate and put up some kind of lighting grid, that would offer you the flexibility to put a junction box there, rewire, run the wires wherever you need them, and put the lights wherever you need them. You see what I'm saying? Just make some kind of structure above that, some kind of speed rail or something that you can fasten to the ceiling, and then hang your lights wherever you need them.
Mickey says, asks me if I'm shooting a psychological thriller. He says, use the light fixtures that are required for the production's
Right.
needs.
That's
Why
what
I'm-
such a
He's not wrong.
strange requirement? He says. Okay,
Well,
I get
that's
it.
what I'm talking about. Basically he's saying you're trying to make a reason to have the
And-
light there.
Yeah, David Brady's got the solution. He says, just have everybody watching you wear sunglasses.
I think JJ's got the solution. Put a skylight
JJ.
there and let the sun come in.
There you go. Solar-powered lighting. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
The ultimate.
Well, it's an interesting challenge. Keep us updated on what's going on with
I
that.
will
Let's
keep
move.
you updated, Alexander. You'll be the
Awesome.
first to know.
Yeah, send photos. Next question.
Hajmuk Gajar from Cape Town, South Africa, undertaking a recording, a video podcast for a client. The guest will be online, not in person. Host will be in our studio. Any thoughts, ideas on possible setups to create a more appealing and creative look?
Ronnie.
Yeah, so first and foremost, you probably should send out some equipment to that remote guest so that you at least have the same audio quality coming in from both ends. I guess you have really good audio on your side, and you have to make sure that the audio is also good on the other side. So that's the first thing I would think of. Of course, making two different sets on two different places look the same is also a challenge. Maybe some lighting, the decor, or some other stuff. And it depends, is he sitting at the desk or is he sitting in a kind of a studio setting in the remote end as well? So all these things are really difficult to make sure they are fitting together, and to make them similar is also a big challenge. One thing that we tend to do is to use the same cropping of the person. So even if you are in the studio environment where you probably are using a little bit more or less close-ups and more total viewpoints from the studio floor, we tend to be closed up and use the same framing for both to make them appear similar. And of course, have them in a two box like you see here on office hours. We often have 2, 3, or 4 boxes with or 2 ups or 3 ups, and make those look similar. Of course, it doesn't need to be the same color, etc., but make sure they have really, really good microphones. Camera is not that important, and lighting is, of course, very important.
Yeah, and go ahead, Mark.
So I think, Ronnie said it very well. I think the only thing that I may challenge Ronnie on, and he's much more experienced than I am, so I do it carefully, is that you should send all the equipment out. What I don't know from the question is the host in an area where there's also an audience, so it kind of makes it like a hybrid, or is the host just in a studio by him or herself? And so I think the most important thing is that there are good mics, the audio's good, the camera is good at both ends. But I think where I take a little challenge to Ronnie is I don't think they both need to look the same. In fact, I think it's better when they don't look the same and they express some of the personality of the guest or the host. Of the host, you probably want to be somehow branded with the show, but I think it's better when the guest has some context to what they do. So that's the only difference I would have that Ronnie has. The other important thing is if you can get remote control of that guest computer, so that, and I know that Alex can talk to this, so that you can control their camera and their audio, because a lot of times they just don't have the tech savvy to make it sound or look as good as it could.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with all of that. And also one of the things, if you don't have the luxury of sending a kit there's a lot of things that you can improve upon with just changing the lighting. Even working with the client's existing lighting inside of their home office, you'd be surprised what kind of improvements you can make. And this is where planning and preparation meet. So just doing this ahead of time, if you can work with that person, schedule a time well in advance of the meeting, try to do it a week in advance, work through all those technical things. You would be surprised. Like we just had, on a previous podcast, we had a guest here. I'm going to show you a before and an after. Okay. Now he was coming in on I think he had it may have been a Logitech webcam. I don't remember the exact model. And he had, actually, no, sorry, it wasn't a Logitech. It was his iPhone, and he was using Camo to connect it to his computer. But you can see behind him, like his face looks really, really peachy, and then you've got the really warm lights. These are the little overhead lights in his office here. So I'm going to show you the next photo here. Now, this is a big improvement, and he didn't buy a single piece of hardware. This was just all lighting changes. He only had a single small source as his fill light, and it was just, a small, it's about 1 foot by 1 foot little LED panel. So you can see it's not perfect. It looks a little sourcey. There's some clip parts of his skin here, but this is about as good as we can make it. And then the background, his office lights, thankfully, were on a dimmer, so we were able to, it was just trial and error. It's like, all right, now let's take the background down to 50%. All right, let's take it down to 25%. And then, you just work through all those things with the person, and you'd be surprised what kind of improvement in the look you can get by doing that. So that's what I would encourage. And if they're open to it, if they feel comfortable to it, see what stuff they have lying around the house. If they're standing in front of or sitting in front of just a plain boring wall, do they have a potted plant they can put behind there? Is there a lamp shade that they can put in the corner to make it look more interesting? There's all sorts of things that you can do. You just got to ask and have a conversation with that person. Let's go to the next question.
Our next question is from Paul Valhus. Will production jobs be listed there? And he lists a link to rentalhuman.ai.
Paul, what is this? I've never heard of rentalhuman.ai.
Okay, you did not watch David Paskin's show, because we talked about this on David Paskin's show. It's on, anyway, what this is it's AI now is hiring humans. And they're paying pretty good wages, like $50 an hour, $100 an hour. They list all these jobs, and how long will it be till you do your production work for an AI? You get hired by an AI. I know that sounds far-fetched, but it's happening. This is proof of it. And how is AI able to do this? Because of guys like Guy Cochran. Because he goes on AI and spends lots of money building stuff. So AI is making money off of humans, and now it's hiring humans to do work that AI can't do. So how long is it going to be till you get hired to do a production by an AI?
Well,
so that's
the stuff is
stage,
moving so
Alexander.
fast. I think, that's a bigger conversation for another show, but you're right. I mean, this stuff is moving so rapidly. You can't, and I mean, no one can really predict that. I mean, anyone who thinks they can predict what's going to happen in the next 5 or even 10 years is probably lying, because there's no way to really tell. But yeah, you're right. These things are evolving very fast. It's very impressive. I've seen some incredible practical demos. I mean, just that thing that Guy Cochran was talking about yesterday, where he linked to a video of a guy with an X32 console and using, I can't remember, was it Claude Book or something? I can't keep up with all the different names.
Claudebot.
Yeah,
Claudebot.
but he was able with a few prompts to have it completely repatch the console, So I can see very useful cases for some of these tools here. Would I rely on it for production use? No. I think it's still important to learn these skills, and because if something goes wrong, if you don't fundamentally understand how the gear operates and functions, that's going to put you in a really, really difficult position. I don't think we should overly rely on this type of stuff. But if you are, for example, I think in certain scenarios where you don't have the luxury of a crew, maybe you're a one-man band, or maybe you don't have the luxury of hiring an engineer, right? I can see how just running the lights for the show, for your band could be, could be run by AI. You could have the talk to, give it a prompt and say, run the lights for my show, make it look good, and give it creative license, and it just goes and does that thing. It controls all your DMX lights. So I think that technology is there now, but I don't know if I would want to rely on it. So,
Alexander,
yeah, it's a really interesting
would
thing.
you work for an AI? Would you go to work for an AI?
Would I work for an AI? I don't think so. But that is, I think, so far in the future, I don't know if that'll be within my lifetime. So I'm not sure I want to live in that future, to be honest.
No, it's now. You can go on this site and hire on to an AI for a job.
Yeah, I'll have to do a little more research and get back to you on that, Paul. Let's go to the next question.
Our next question is from Hazma Kajar in Cape Town. Managing online participants in a large lecture theater at the hospital. Currently use a MixPre 6.2 and lavalier mic and Sennheiser body pack. Should I consider an alternative mic?
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, so if this is a large room and you have PA speakers going out in the room, and you obviously have, because I understand the situation as being something that you are actually going to push out in the room, and that means that the lecturers or the ones that you are mixing on premise or on-prem is also going out in the room. And in that case, using a lav can be working depending on the type of lav. So you have OmniLavs, which takes audio from all directions, and you have cardioid that are a little bit more pointy, so to speak, and you have supercardioid lavs that are only pointing in a very specific direction and just have small side lobes or back lobes that pick up audio from that direction as well. The normal thing we do using microphones in the room that are going to be heard in the speakers for the audience in the room is to use something that is coming from the ear. And we tend to have a little bit more signal before feedback on those type of microphones. And we tend to use either very expensive ones or a little bit cheaper ones from Sennheiser. The HSP 4 is one that are cardioid and actually have two microphones. So it has one in the back of the microphone, which is facing out the audio coming from outside. And then they have a bigger diaphragm that is pointing to the mouth of the person speaking. So that is normally a good solution, where you can also have pretty high volume out in the room as well. So it depends. The audio coming in from the external remote guests are mixed individually either way. I'm not sure I would use a MixPre for that situation. I probably use a little bit bigger audio mixer to make it easier for myself with bigger faders and have all the routing set up with mix minus, etc. A little bit easier. The display and the menu system on the MixPre can be a little bit stressful and difficult to use if the situation demands that you have to change something really quickly.
Yeah, and to bring into the chat from Mickey McAtory saying, I would take a split from the handheld mics, both the main and the roaming mics, and make your own broadcast mix on your DM3. Wire the talent up with the G4 Lav as a backup. I have to agree with him. And I also agree with the fact that, with his comment about the MixPre 3 not using it for broadcast. The problem with the MixPre 3 is it's not really the right tool for the job. That's a great field recorder for capturing Foley, for doing anything in film, capturing dialogue that's going to be processed later. But remember, you're dealing with live sound. You're in a combat audio situation, which is what we call it. So having something like that DM3, where you have that 6 bands of, or I can't remember, it's 5 or 6 bands of parametric EQ. You've got all the processing, high pass, low pass, filtering. You've got compression. You've got downward expansion. You've got the 8 channels of auto mix you can turn on. There's all these capabilities to really hone that sound and control that stuff properly so that stuff doesn't take off, especially if you have a live PA in the room. That's another factor that you got to think about. And then you're dealing with open speakers in the room and controlling feedback and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of things to consider there. I'm not lavs can work if you're using a good quality lav mic in the right environment. But that ME2 is a really entry-level microphone. We're talking about like $150 entry-level lav mic from Sennheiser. Now the MK2 or MKE2, that's a whole different class of lav. So you can get better lavs. If you don't want to buy one, you can probably rent one, or maybe ask around, see if you can find somebody with a better lav that's got an 1/8-inch threaded connector that's compatible with the Sennheiser body pack. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can do there. All right, let's go to the next question.
Vincent Alvarez from Bellingham, Washington. This week's NFL Honors show had side black bars. Why would they design it like this? I felt cheated, like I was missing something in the image. And he gives a link to that video.
I haven't clicked on this image yet. Let's start with Paul.
Okay, I think what they're doing, this is just my theory, they're going for a retro look, like a 4.3 type display, and it's kind of a shame because they're using Venice and Burano cameras from Sony. So I don't know. I guess they just wanted to go retro.
And Mark?
At first from the question, I thought it was maybe they were doing something for social media and they wanted it 9:16 instead of 16:9. But now that I'm looking at the link, it just looks like a mistake. I mean, I don't know why you would do that.
Let me click. I don't have
for
it called
social
up on
media.
my
They want to
ATEM.
be able to.
Oh
crop
yeah,
it to
okay. I'm looking
vertical.
at that now. That is
Yeah,
not
but that
good.
won't work for social media. I mean, it's not doing what most people want it to do. I don't know. I mean, it's almost like that particular monitor wasn't set correctly.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, it looks weird. Let's go to the next question.
Our next question is from Chris Noblock from Landstuhl, Germany, trying to replace a 55, 65-inch TVs used for presentation display with monitors, no built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Any and all recommendations are appreciated.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so we use these type of displays all the time, but I would ask you to add some more details. What are you trying to achieve? Why are you replacing the old ones? What are the new features you're looking for? What is the scenario, and how are you going to be using this? I'm thinking of distance, infrastructure, mounting, etc. Can you add some information to this?
Chris? Chris, you're muted. Zoom muted.
Oh, excuse me. That are in different locations. We'll have them on the sides of conference rooms or on the floor as confidence monitors. But the problem is, despite all of our efforts to turn off Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and everything, there's an internal signal that really high-end readers can pick up. But short of going into all of our TVs and physically removing it, so we're looking at like just standalone, actual, just if you want to call it, not smart, but just dumb monitors, with feet, so we can literally just place them wherever they're needed.
Okay, I understand. So in that case, I understand the term monitor because you don't need to have all the other stuff included in those. There are professional displays that are being built for this specific reason, just be aware the pricing is a little bit different than you are used to for TVs.
For sure.
And they also have a more output, so the light effect of them is much brighter, and that could cause a problem if you need to turn the brightness down. But hit me up on Discord or in after hours, and we'll look through for some of the ones that I have experience with.
Oh, certainly. Thank you.
All right. And if you like office hours, if you like the show that you're watching now and you'd like to contribute to the show, there are numerous ways that you can do that. A few of the ways that you can do that are by liking the show, subscribing, share it with a friend. And of course, you can become part of the show. You can either be a panelist if you have a lot of knowledge in the industry, or you can contribute in other ways like joining the volunteer team, because this show is entirely driven by volunteers. We have a great crew that shows up to produce this show. There's lots of different roles potentially available. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can go to officehours.global/volunteer. That's officehours.global/volunteer. And of course, you can support us monetarily by making a donation by going to officehours.global/donate. That's /donate at the end. All right, let's go to the next question.
Our next question is from Hajmat Gajar. Currently, my camera at the office is a Blackmagic Design PCC 6K Pro. Sorry, don't remember the acronym. Attached to an ATEM. Camera now needed in studio. Which camera should I consider as a replacement for Zoom meetings with autofocus and leave something in the bank?
Ronnie?
Yeah, so if this is a temporary camera, I would just use the one that we are using as temporary camera. That's the Insta360 Lynx. They have released a few new models. I have the older one, which has both PT set and the what is it called, the yaw as an extra third thing to adjust, and they are good enough and really kind of the cheap side of the cameras, but it's giving a decent picture. If this is a more permanent solution, I have big problems then to just ask you to buy one of the Sony CV-A10s, probably the version 2. It's of course much more expensive, but autofocus is really cool. You can have, this is the camera I'm using right now. So I can have, this is actually just a 1.4 lens, and I have it stepped up a little bit, I think to 2.8 maybe, to not have the background being too blurry. And it has impeccable autofocus, as most of the Sony cameras have, regardless of how many numbers is in the product name. And since this is a 2-number, it's not the most professional series, obviously, but it's interchangeable lenses. It has a good HDMI output, and you can run it forever. This camera is powered on all the time, and you can even have it as a blogging camera or vlogging camera if you need to do that. Sony is my choice for these types of cameras.
Yeah, I know when they released that follow-up to the Insta360 Link, they took out one of the access adjustments, which was a real bummer. But then they just came out with a new one, so I haven't done any research. Have you looked into that newest model of Insta360? It looks the specs look pretty good. I just don't know if it has any kind of gimbal if it has that built into it. So, you know, I keep steering people towards that original 360 because they still offer it as an option, and the price has also come down too. It's really hard to beat that camera for under $200. And you know, as long as you have ample lighting in that space, considering the smaller sensor, you can get pretty decent results. You're not going to get that crazy super shallow depth of field, but you know, at least coming onto a meeting with a really nice sharp image with pretty good color reproduction, you know, those little cameras can be very beneficial and better than most laptop cameras. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I have two choices and a dark horse for Hosmuc. My second choice would be the camera I'm using right now, which is a Insta360 Link, and it's a decent camera. It definitely is good if you're on the move, if you have to move your setup around. My number one choice would be the camera sitting behind my Insta360 Mark II right now, which is a Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. And that camera has hundreds of menus and choices and options, which is why I'm not using it right now. But if you want to meet me, Hosmuc, in office hours sometime, I'll go through both cameras with you, A to Z, and show you how they work. And my dark horse camera for you would be the new OBSBot Tiny 3. They just came out with it 3 days ago. And the reason I say that is because the OBSBot works with the newer brand of tuners and consoles and interfaces that have just come out, like the Rodecaster Video S. I just got a Rodecaster Video S, and unfortunately, my Insta360 will not work with that because it's not compatible with that because of the new standard that they're coming out with. I think it's called UVC, and if anybody else on the panel knows something about UVC, they might be able to give a better explanation of why that protocol won't work with the Rodecaster. But Hosmuk, those are my suggestions. That's what I'm using, and I'll be happy to meet with you and help you out with that.
All right, and Ronnie?
Yeah, just make sure that you understand, for all the viewers, that you understand that the Insta360 is a USB camera and not compatible to connect to an ATEM, but the Sonys and all the other cameras are. So if you're planning to use the ATEM as your primary switcher still, you can't be using the Insta360 in the way you are planning to. I have my Insta360 connected to my computer directly, and then on my computer side I'm using Mimo Live, so I can, on the Mimo Live software, change between the sources I need to be using. So either I get the sources from the ATEM through an UltraStudio recorder and Thunderbolt cable, or I get it directly into the to my Mac Mini via the USB interface that the camera has built in. So just to be sure.
Yeah, the only way you could get the Insta360 to work with it would be to get something like this. This is an OBSBot USB-C to HDMI converter. But that would be kind of kludgy. It might be kind of kludgy to try to hook that up.
All right, and let's go to Mark.
So what I'd like to do is, Paul made a suggestion on one camera. We're testing one of those cameras out now at the radio station. It's the ZV-E10-2 from Sony, and it seems to work very well. Now, the only difference is you're switching over to the Sony lenses from what I imagine is the Canon lenses on your Blackmagic. But it does have great autofocus. I've left it running for 2 weeks. Now, granted, it's in a pretty chilled room. It's like 60-some degrees because of all the equipment. It's sitting in a trailer running, but it's been on for 2 weeks running. But it seems to be fine and a lot less expensive than the Blackmagic cameras.
All right, and Chris? Can't hear you, Chris.
Yep. Okay, there we go. Mouse not coordinated. It also the Sony vlogging cameras, those look really, really great. I'm definitely looking forward to getting those. I do have to recommend that kind of on the lower end, that if you can come across like any of the A6000 series, like 60, 200, 300, 400, that's what I'm using. And I'm waiting on my other lens to come in. I'm using the kit lens right now. And the autofocus has just been fantastic, as they are it's getting even better with the layered cameras.
And the last one I'll throw out too is don't dismiss Micro Four Thirds. I'm actually on a Panasonic GH5S. It has the older contrast-based autofocus, which is still somewhat problematic. But I find, as someone who has a lot of Lumix cameras, I've had I also have a GH5, but the GH5S was the video-centric version of that camera they released after, and they made a few minor improvements to the autofocus, and I find that the autofocus on the GH5S is actually good enough where it pretty much stays on my face for the most part. Like I can grab something and it'll focus on it. It's not as fast as the Sony, but if I put that in front of my face, usually it's not going to do. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it's reasonably fast, but not as good as the current crop of stuff. But you can get a used one refurbished, probably from a local camera shop for very, very little money. I think the body cost me $800. And yes, I know I can go and buy the new Sony camera. I don't like the Sony cameras mainly because they don't have any kind of cooling solution. They have too many. I've heard too many horror stories of cameras overheating. Although the Lumix doesn't have a cooling solution either. But I've been running this camera powered on 24/7 for years. Haven't had a single shutdown. It actually runs on a UPS here, so even if I have power problems, the camera doesn't turn off. I haven't had any problems with those. And the other nice thing about Micro Four Thirds cameras is that you can get a really nice prime lens from Sigma for really cheap. I have a 30mm f1.4, so it collects a lot of light, and that lens cost me $400 in Canadian dollars. So in the US, even less. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask you something, Alexander. What replacement power supply are you using to in place of the battery, and what lens are you using with the GH5? I have a GH5, so I might want to get those items and do a head-to-head with the Sony ZV-E10, because the Sony ZV-E10, I left it on by accident for 5 days. It had no effect on it at all. So I know it'll stand up to continuous use.
Yeah, so I put a dummy battery in the Lumix. Now, Panasonic makes their own official dummy battery. I ended up, it's a lot more expensive. I suppose there's a risk not using the original manufacturer's dummy battery, but I ended up finding one on Amazon from a brand called Kimaru, I believe, Kimaru. I've had really good luck with those. I have a ton of Lumix cameras. I've had zero problems leaving them 24/7 powered on with a dummy battery that goes into an external power supply. And that's really the key. You don't want to power these things off a USB-C port. You don't really want to run them on any kind of battery, and just make sure you turn all the power management features off. One other thing I would suggest doing is always have that flip-out screen pulled open. And then when you're not using it, if you don't need that screen, you can just turn off that screen. So what I've done is I've mapped to one of the hotkey buttons, the function buttons on the camera. I've mapped that function button to make it an on-off switch for the flip-out screen. So that way I'm reducing the heat that is generated by that screen, but also I'm saving the lifespan of that LCD screen because I don't have to have that LCD screen running 24/7 with burn-in and eventually have pixels die on it. So that is the camera that I'm using. I have a Sigma f1.4 30mm Micro Four Thirds lens, and like I said, you know, you could probably in the U.S., Paul, you should be able to get that camera lens for about $300. You know, stick it on your G5, and that thing will get so much bokeh. Like I'm in a small, like these two bass straps behind me. Sometimes people think it's a green screen. It's almost at arm's length. Like I'm talking like 3.5 to 4, probably about 4 feet behind me here. And that's how much blur you get on that f1.4. Now I had to put a neutral density filter on mine, because the thing is, even with the lights controlled here in the studio, when you run that lens fully open, it becomes too bright. So I had to control it by putting that neutral density to get it back down to the correct look that I needed for the shot without having things blown out and stuff like that. So give that a try, and hopefully, Hazmuk, that helps you out. We've got a few more questions coming in. We've opened up questions. You probably already noticed that in the panel chat, but if you do have any more questions, you can always get them in. We still got some time. So let's go to the next one, Mark.
Okay, our next question is from Vic Hernandez from Springfield, Missouri. Will there be a volunteer meeting today? And it says...
The answer is yes.
Yes,
there's going to be a new volunteers meeting at 8:30.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Exactly. No, all good. New volunteers at 8:30, volunteers at 9. We usually announce that at the end of the show. Next question.
Our next question is from Roz Humphreys. If anybody has an A7S III, I think that's from Sony, gather there's a firmware update. Has anybody updated yet? Any thoughts on this?
What could possibly go wrong with a firmware update on a camera that's working perfectly fine, Ronnie? Ronnie's here to tell us about that.
Oh, don't go there. A lot of things can happen. We have been very fortunate that it never bricked our cameras. So there are a few things that you need to be really, really careful about, and that is using a right type of USB cable. As you might understand, we have loads of USB cables, and there is sometimes only the one that makes this work. So the firmware upgrade on the Sonys are a little bit finicky. So read the manual, read the README files thoroughly, understand what is described, and follow the correct process. Make sure that you are, if you're upgrading a firmware from an older firmware, make sure that you are doing the stepwise. So there are steps that you need to do before you are using the final firmware. So you might have to go to the 2 times older firmware first, and then one more, and before you can apply the final firmware. So be really careful. I've done this multiple times. So if you are insecure or looking for some advice, I can be available to help you in after hours if you need to, and make sure that you don't continue before you are told to continue in the software, and make sure that you read everything that is happening on the screen. It can be a little bit confusing when you are seeing update finish and you're not sure what to do next. Sometimes it's correct to turn off the camera and reboot it. Other times it's not. So make sure you are really, really reading everything, both in the manual, README files, and what's going on in the software while you are upgrading.
Agreed. Next question.
Our next question is from Sock Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. Any issues with sending HDMI signal out from an NVIDIA card and simultaneously sending the same signal out via an NDI to a live stream? Windows 11 computer, 24 gigs of RAM. I can add more info if in the chat if needed.
Well, Zach, I don't think we have enough information here because NDI can get complicated. So you're saying sending out, you want to send an HDMI signal out from the card simultaneously, sending the same signal out via NDI to a live stream. Okay, so, well, what NVIDIA GPU do you have? If it's a 5000 series or newer, it's a good GPU, but we don't know what flavor of NDI. Is it NDI HX? Is it the full bandwidth NDI? What are you sending? 1080p 30, 1080p 60, 4K 30, 4K 60? We don't really have all that information there. So if you're in the chat, maybe you can let us know. And if not, you may need to repost this question and provide us a little more information before we can give you a thoughtful answer on this. Let's go to the next question.
Paul Kovacs from Elkhart, Indiana. Anyone have any glitches with FCP12 using low-power laptop to run Final Bet music, but hate having to duplicate libraries? And if I need to make changes, would need to go back to my main computer.
Okay, so he's running Final Cut Pro 12, low-power laptop. I don't know what that means. That's very vague. So is that an older Intel MacBook that you've got running Final Cut Pro 12? It's hard to say. We'd have to make some educated guesses. Hate having to duplicate libraries, and if I need to make changes, would need to get back to my main glitches. Paul, it's kind of vague. You need to be more specific here. You need to know the computer. I need to define glitches. What does that mean exactly? So if you can just reform that question for us, I'm sure we can probably help you out. Let's go to the next question. Oh, you're muted. Can't hear you, Mark.
Sorry. Next question is from Paul, but before we get to it, I just want to clarify on one of your previous questions. I mentioned putting speed rail on the ceiling, and I have received information that speed rail is not rated to be hung from a ceiling to use to hang lights from. So don't use speed rail. Find something else. But your question here is Apple and Google Gemini have joined for AI, and Siri is getting Google Smarts. Can you comment?
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody from office hours went and infiltrated Apple, and told them, hey, Siri needs to be smart. Now they're they're hiring Google to put Gemini as the smarts behind Siri. Whole bunch of phones just went off, I guess.
I can't comment on this. Sorry, Paul. I'm a bit out of the AI loop. I use chat. I use Chat GPT so much, to be honest with you. I'm kind of falling behind. I haven't tried. It's hard to keep up with all these different models. I haven't used Claude Book and something or other book. How many book AIs do we have? It's super confusing. So let's go. Looks like we got one more Paul Valhus question. Let's go to that.
All right. From Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. What TV show, movie, YouTube video did you like this week? Mine is Bogonia.
Ah, yes. No spoilers. I haven't seen this yet, but I hear this movie is really good. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, it's really good. It stars Jesse Plemons, who was in Friday Night Lights. Remember that show about
He's great. Great actor.
Texas football? Great actor. And then Emma Stone, who plays a CEO of a pharmaceutical company. And Jesse and his friend live on a farm out in the country, and they're conspiracy theorists. And they theorize that the Emma Stone character, the pharmaceutical CEO, is out to destroy the Earth. She's an alien from the Andromeda galaxy. And if I say any more, I'll be in spoiler territory. So, other than the Olympics, that's the best thing I've seen. It's a really well done movie. Not quite safe for office hours, so be careful because there is a little bit of violence in it, but it's minimal. But it is there. Okay.
Appreciate the recommendation. It's definitely on my list, and I'm waiting for the 4K UHD Blu-ray to show up because that's how I roll with physical media. I haven't seen a ton of his movies, but the director of this movie, Yorgos Lanthimos, seems to he likes doing these kind of sort of more slightly strange psychological movies that make you think. So I'm starting to become a fan. He did Poor Things too, which was another movie that did really, really well. So I'm starting to become a fan of his. Appreciate the recommendation. That's all we've got for today's Saturday show. Thanks to all the panelists for bringing your A game today, answering all these questions. And of course, thanks to the producers, the people in the chat right now, putting in these questions, chatting with us, adding your insights. We really appreciate it. We wouldn't have a show without you. And of course, the back end crew that wakes up every day to make sure all these morning and evening shows are happening. We really appreciate the work that you do. Really, we wouldn't have a show without all that technical work. And of course, if we were to have traveled around the world to answer all of these questions, according to the Tulalip Traversal, that would have been 55,000 miles. That's 88,000 kilometers and 434 million bananas for scale. All right, let's jump into after hours. One more announcement, of course. I mentioned it earlier, but once again, there is a meeting today at 8:30 a.m. Pacific for new volunteers. If you're not sure about how to volunteer on the show, or like what role do I, what roles are available, that kind of stuff, you can join us. The meeting links, how you get those, are by joining our community. So if you haven't done that, you need to go to officehours.global/join. And also /volunteer for those particular roles. And of course, right after that at 9 o'clock is our existing meeting for people on the show that are volunteering on the crew or volunteering in other roles. And we talk about, it's more of an inside baseball thing. What's working for us, what's not working for us. We'll hope to see you there. We'll see you. My IKEA office chair is getting creaky, and it's only 2 years old.
Yeah, buy a new one.
Get a Herman Miller.
That's what I get for spending $150 on a Swedish chair.
Hey,
get a used Herman Miller chair.
Yeah, you can find a lot of used Herman Miller chairs.
I don't like the idea of sitting in something. There's a part of my brain that says I really shouldn't be sitting in something that someone was sitting in. It's like I don't like used couches, used chairs. It bothers me.
Is there a good
You buy
used
a chair from
furniture,
IKEA. Buy two.
office furniture place in Vancouver?
Buy two IKEA chairs. That's right. That's a good idea, Ronnie. I need redundancy. I need a RAID 6 array of equivalent for office chairs.
You
Make
know,
sure to pick up those IKEA batteries while you're there.
yeah.
I do love those. I do have a lot of those Lotto rechargeables, the 2450 milliamp, the higher current stuff.
Look
Those
at
are
this,
great.
Alexander.
What is
You
that?
know, if you get two, you